The drama in AEW continues as AEW World Champion CM Punk shoots on his heat with Colt Cabana. He also calls out Hangman Page and the AEW EVPs. Reportedly, there is major heat on the AEW World Champion with talent threatening to walk out. All this and more in this breaking AEW news story. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well, and wow. There is so much to get into today. We are going to do separate videos talking all about All Out last night, talking about obviously CM Punk winning the AEW World Championship, the return of MJF, but really the biggest story to come out of all of last night's events actually didn't happen on the pay-per-view. The biggest story at the moment coming out of the event is what CM Punk said in the AEW All Out media scrum after the event, and it's absolutely staggering. And the drama that is circulating CM Punk and the reported issues, obviously the well-documented issues he has with Colt Cabana, but the factions within AEW and the heat between multiple sides got very real and very public after the show. Let's get straight into this because CM Punk has addressed all of the backstage issues he is currently having in AEW, and specifically his past issues with Colt Cabana and his more recent issues with Hangman Adam Page. Now, of course, when this all really blew up, when CM Punk returned from his foot injury, he first began his first promo back by calling out Hangman Page. And in the days following his promo, news began to circulate on a variety of issues behind the scenes stemming from Colt Cabana's status with AEW. Now, of course, if you're not familiar, CM Punk and Colt Cabana, they were best friends for a really long period of time. It was well documented. Two from Chicago, came up through the business together, worked together for a long period of time. Big friends, long-time friends. Now, CM Punk had aired his grievances he had during his tenure with WWE on Colt Cabana's podcast, The Art of Wrestling, in 2014. Now, because of his comments on that podcast, shortly thereafter, both men were sued by WWE Dr. Chris Arman. Eventually, they had a falling out because of that lawsuit, which they won, and Cabana sued CM Punk in an effort to have his legal fees paid, and CM Punk then countersued his former best friend for suing him in the first place. Now, CM Punk then took time to address Scott Colton, real name of Colt Cabana, and their issues, as well as all of these rumors that are ongoing that began to circulate in the media during the post-All Out 2022 media scrum. Now, CM Punk was asked by Nick Houseman about these issues. Nick Houseman of Wrestling, great guy, and he said that it had been nearly a decade since he has had a relationship with Scott Colton, and he thinks it's a shame he has to address this publicly. Now, you're going to have to bear with me here because there's a lot of talking here and a lot of quotes, but I'll do my best to get through it. Hat tip to Fightful for the transcription as well. This is what he said, quote, "If you fancy yourself as a journalist, even if it's for the silly world of professional wrestling, and you have journalist integrity, people who report things mostly that are bullshit and slanderous lies against myself, if you are friends with somebody, you blew my spot. If you're not friends with them, I apologize. You should probably disclose who you're friends with. I haven't had anything to do with Scott Colton in almost a decade. Probably wanted nothing to do with him even longer than that. It's effing unfortunate that I have to come up here and on this when I'm on my time. This is a effing business. Why? I'm a grown-ass adult man and I decide to be friends with somebody who is nobody else's effing business but my friends. If I fall backwards, will catch me. Scott Colton, I felt, never would have. My problem was I wanted to bring a guy with me to the top that didn't want to see me at the top. You call it jealousy, you call it envy, whatever the F it is. My relationship with Scott Colton ended long before I paid all of his bills. I have every receipt, I have every invoice, I have every email. I have an email where he says, I agreed to go out separate ways, I will get my own lawyer, you do not have to pay anymore. That's an email I have. The only reason the public did not see is because when I finally had to countersue him through discovery, we discovered he shared a bank account with his mother. That's a fact. As soon as we discovered that fact and we subpoenaed old Marsha, he sent the email, oh, can we please drop this? It's 2022. I haven't been friends with this guy since at least 2014, late 2013. Now, it didn't stop there. CM Punk also addressed the executive vice presidents of AEW, particularly the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, and Kenny Omega, before turning his attention to Hangman Page and the promo he cut prior to AEW Double or Nothing, claiming that Hangman went into business for himself and jeopardized the first $1 million live gate in the company's history. Now, Fightful Select had previously reported that the belief among several on the roster that they spoke to was that CM Punk believed Hangman went into business for himself leading into their Double or Nothing main event for the AEW World Championship, and Punk may have seen the August 17 promo as a receipt for Hangman going into business. This is what Punk had to say, quote, "The fact that I have to sit up here because we have irresponsible people who call themselves EVPs and couldn't effing manage Target, and they spread lies and bullshit and put into a medium that I got somebody fired when I have F all to do with them, want nothing to do with him, do not care where he works, where he doesn't work, where he eats, where he sleeps. The fact I have to get up here and do this in 2022 is effing embarrassing. If you're at fault, F you. If you're not, I apologize. What did I ever do in this world to deserve an empty-headed effing dumb F like Hangman Adam Page to go out on national television and effing go into business for himself? For what? What did I do? I didn't do a goddamn thing," Punk said. Now, at this point, AEW president Tony Khan, who, by the way, is sitting there the entire time. Tony Khan is sitting there the entire time while this is going on, sometimes nodding, sometimes shaking his head, looking pretty stone-faced. He tried to intervene and say he did his best to make the backstage situation clear. CM Punk said that it's not his business to have to make it clear, repeating that the EVP should have known better because this situation is none of their business. He said, quote, "It's not his, Tony Khan's, position to make it clear. There are people who call themselves EVPs that should have effing known better. This is none of their business. I understand sticking up for your effing friends, I get it. I stuck up for that guy more than anybody. I paid his bills until I didn't, and it was my decision not to. I'm trying to run an effing business, and when somebody who hasn't done a damn thing in this business jeopardizes the first $1 million house that this company has ever drawn off my back and goes on national television and does that, it's a disgrace to this industry. It's a disgrace to this company. We're far beyond apologies. I gave him an effing chance. It did not get handled. You saw what I had to do, which is very regrettable, lowering myself to his effing level. That's where we're at right now. I will still walk up and down this hallway and say, if you have an effing problem with me, take it up with me. Let's effing go." Furthermore, CM Punk reiterated that he tried many different avenues to resolve his issues with Scott Colton, but at the end of the day, Colton went ahead with the lawsuit. Quote, "Sorry to keep bringing this up, but I've never spoken a word about it. When it came down that he was going to sue me, I asked to talk to him. He refused. I asked for mediation. It was denied. I offered him money. He said it was not enough. He went ahead with the lawsuit and sued. It's his effing funeral. I don't care. He shares a bank account with his mother, which tells you all you need to know about what kind of character that is." Now, turning his attention back to the EVPs, whom he never addresses by name, but clearly we know who he's talking about, CM Punk says he's doing his best to fill arenas, while the EVPs think they're in Reseda. Now, Reseda, apologies for the mispronunciation, California, was the longtime home of PWG, essentially Punk's saying that they're playing to this niche audience while Punk's trying to make money for the company. He said, quote, "I'll tell you why I'm upset about it. If you're an EVP, you don't try and middle your top babyface to try and get your niche audience that is on the internet to try and hate him for some made-up BS rumor really pisses me off. Stepping on your own to trying effing make money, sell tickets, fill arenas. These stupid guys think they're in Reseda. Apologies again. CM Punk also addressed Hangman Page, claiming that he is not the one who likes to take advice, rather he is someone who believes in trial and error. CM Punk, of course, being a big fan of history and wrestling, believes that it's not very wise to suggest that there is nothing to gain from listening to the advice of veterans around in the AEW locker room. Quote, "Our locker room, for all the wisdom and brilliance it has, isn't worth shit when you have an empty-headed idiot who has never done anything in the business do public interviews and say, I don't really take advice. Who the F do you think you are? That's stupid. I'm on a team with Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, and I don't need to work on my swing. I'm not going to listen to these guys. Effing go F yourself. I dare you to effing say that to Terry Funk's face. I don't need to listen to you, Mr. Funk. I know what I'm doing. Effing grow up." Now, again, absolutely major comments, and you would think, what? He really said that? Is it real? Is it a shoot? Is it a work? What's going on? to answer your questions here, by all accounts, this is very, very, very real. And there are very big ramifications and a lot of heat. If there wasn't heat on CM Punk anyway, CM Punk's got a ton of it on him right now. You've got a situation where it's the AEW World Champion versus the AEW EVPs, the founders of the company, and CM Punk's not having it. Now, Fightful Select Sean Ross Sapp has provided a huge update regarding all of this. Now, for the record, they state that Fightful originally reported the Punk Cabana news earlier this year. They were the first to really break this story. And they say, Sean Ross Sapp says that they've never spoken to Kenny Omega or the Young Bucks outside of interviews, basically saying that this information that they got wasn't from Kenny Omega or the Young Bucks. It's interesting that they don't specifically mention Colt Cabana. That's interesting from that they say there. Now, they say the story emerged from talent frustrated and under the impression that Punk and Cabana's ill will towards one another cost the well-liked Cabana a job he was enjoying. Tony Khan denied that was the reason in the past. Cabana eventually got put on Ring of Honor duty. Now, Fightful are reporting that Cabana had indicated to Khan before Punk's original return that he'd likely not be happy working there if Punk was in the company. Now, as I mentioned, CM Punk, with those comments, by all accounts, Fightful are reporting, garnered an incredible amount of heat for his comments at the AEW All Out post-show scrum. Now, Punk, of course, ran down his history with Colt Cabana, targeted Hangman Adam Page and the EVPs, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. Punk said Hangman Page went into business for himself and almost compromised a huge AEW gate, and said the EVPs were leaking info to journalists. Now, immediately after that Scrum rant, talent had informed Fightful that Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks were extremely pissed off. And one claimed that they were threatening to walk out of the company over Punk's comments. Fightful Select had heard prior that at least one of the Young Bucks had been in contact with talent outside of AEW, indicating that many of the rumors heard about Punk and the frustration around him were indeed true. Now, some media believe the Elite was scheduled for the scrum, but an adjustment was made after Punk's scrum, but that hasn't been confirmed as of the recording right now. Now, around then, the security went around the scrum area in a hurry. They haven't learned if this was related to the situation, but all of this information filtered in around the same time. There's a lot of chaos, and as you can imagine, comments like that and then talent being pulled from scrums and all that kind of stuff will create a ton of chaos. Now, obviously, you have to be aware and you have to keep, your eyes open to a work in this type of situation. And a lot of people will say, well, it's pro wrestling. It's all a work. But talent that were contacted were under the impression that the situation was that of a real one way or another. Of course, more details are going to come out about this. It's pro wrestling. Every detail eventually leaks out. So once it does, we'll talk about it here on the channel. The heat between Punk and Cabana, as well as Punk towards Hangman Page, has for a long time been very, very, very real. Now, regardless of the situation, Fightful Select is also reporting and that they have already heard of several talent that are very upset with Punk's comments. We're going to try and find out or see hopefully more information about some stances from who agrees with and disagrees with him in the future. Fightful are also reporting that some of the media wasn't planning on attending the scrum, were told that they really should attend it before all of this drama unfolded, essentially kind of implying that maybe something was planned. I'm not sure. Of course, Tony Khan, as I mentioned, was at the AEW media scrum throughout the entirety of this situation as well. By the time we really got to the really early hours of the morning over there in the United States, there were unconfirmed rumors that CM Punk and Ace Steel and members of the Elite were involved in some sort of confrontation. They've heard varying accounts of how involved it was. By the end of the press conference, several talent and media had learned that the incident had happened. So again, there basically is now reports of possibly a confrontation between all of them involved, heat, all this kind of stuff. It's a wild situation and a wild story. Who is in the right and the wrong in this one? I don't know. I don't know if myself I particularly have a side on this one, because I believe in, and this isn't me fence sitting, I believe that there is faults on both sides. I really, truly do. I put myself in CM Punk's shoes, and I can understand his frustration. I honestly, I can actually sympathize with him a little bit here. Now, I think Punk's personality is abrasive. Do I think it's professional for the world champion to be in a press conference just after he's won the world championship, running down members of the roster, running down executive vice presidents in the company? in a public forum next to the president and owner of a multi-million-dollar company. No, I don't think that's professional, and I don't think it's the right thing to do. I think that if there are issues, you should resolve them backstage. However, what I would also say, if CM Punk's comments are accurate, he's attempted to resolve these situations several times, and it hasn't happened. And in his perception, they are leaking stuff to the media and trying to paint him in a bad light because, I don't know, they feel threatened by him or they're not happy with the way he does business. I think also this is a clash, seemingly, of how to do business. I think CM Punk views it as, we should be here making money. We should be here selling out arenas. We should be here, as he mentions, doing $1 million gate. And you've got people going into business for themselves, saying stuff in promos that haven't been approved, trying to paint someone as the bad guy who is making money for AEW. That's not right. Where's the respect about that? And he's absolutely right on that point. He absolutely is. Now, from the perspective of maybe the Young Bucks and Hangman Page, they believe that CM Punk is trying to force Colt Cabana out the company, and he's not, helping out the boys and all this kind of stuff, and he isn't a good guy, and this, that, and the other. But I would say to the Young Bucks, I would say to Hangman Page, why aren't you taking that up with CM Punk? Why aren't you saying that to CM Punk then? Why are you going on national television and hinting at things that the other guy doesn't know anything about? Again, was it right for CM Punk to go into business for himself as a receipt? No. Two wrongs don't make a right. But also, I think everyone shoulders a lot of blame here. I think CM Punk's not being professional in some of the things he's saying. I think the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, they're not completely clean in all of this too. Everyone in this situation is being incredibly unprofessional, and it doesn't look good. And just think how wild that situation is. You've got the world champion of a company in a public forum when the world is watching, when media is right there, to the assembled press is running down top people in the company, EVPs in the company, and the president of the company is sitting right there. How did it get to this point? Who is managing this? Tony Khan. You've got to ask a question about Tony Khan. What are you doing to resolve this matter? Clearly, this is an issue that has long got out of hand. It got out of hand a long time ago, a really long time ago. And Tony Khan, for whatever reason, hasn't been able to manage it properly. I don't know. We spoke about, there was that big talent meeting before Dynamite a couple of weeks ago, and people were feeling happy coming out of that. Well, ain't that a load of rubbish? Because things are not all good in AEW right now, and it is built to a point, and it is building to a point right now where people are going to leave. Can you see a situation at this point where CM Punk, Colt Cabana, Hangman Page, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks all stick in the company? I don't know. And ultimately, I don't know who Tony Khan picks. How does Tony Khan at this point resolve this issue? How do you fix this? Do you get CM Punk and Hangman Page and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, you get them all into a room? But apparently, if reports are to be believed, they were all in a room right after this press conference, and they were confronting each other, shouting at each other. It is a complete mess. A total and complete mess in AEW right now. And I think Tony Khan again, I think everyone involved has to shoulder a bit of blame here. I really, truly do. I think maybe Tony Khan has to shoulder the biggest for letting it get out of hand. Again, I think that some people might, back the AEW EVPs, or they might say that, the Young Bucks are just defending their friend. Is there any substantiated proof that CM Punk tried to get Colt Cabana fired? I don't think so. Now, you could argue, I've seen journalists, David Bixenspan says on Twitter, here's what's insane about tonight. Nobody has reported that Punk tried to get Cabana fired, including the reporter most likely to be accused of being an elite puppet. The furthest anyone went was Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp saying there was a perception that Punk did something. Now, again, I don't really buy into what Bixenspan is saying there, because he's basically saying that Punk ranted and raved and shot on and said all these things in a public manner about something that wasn't even actually reported. But the problem is, and this is being really pedantic here, I think that's being very pedantic, because there is no real difference between reporting something as fact or implying it. If anything, when you imply something, when you imply that that's what it was, or you say, people implied, it's the same as reporting it. It's put out there. And also, when it's implied, it's almost more seedy, like it's almost more of a secret. Like Punk's playing this cloak and dagger kind of thing, or he's trying to have secrets, or he's politically leveraging backstage. It's the same thing. So I don't think you can say, it was never actually reported that, so CM Punk's just unhinged. He was doing, no, you can't say that. You can't say that because it's very clear what was put out there. It's very clear. And I know I'm a big fan of Sean Ross Sapp and journalistic integrity, but it's essentially put out there. So it's not, CM Punk's, I think he's right to be upset. And maybe when it comes to Punk as well, again, looking at this from Punk's perspective and trying to look at it from the EVP's perspective and everyone's perspective here, looking at from Punk's perspective, he might think, you know what? People have been saying all of this stuff about me that isn't true. I believe, or he believes, I don't know if I believe it, but he's saying that he thinks the EVPs are leaking stuff to the media and are saying things to paint them in a bad light just because they're friends with Colt Cabana. And he's got a point in the extent of, it's 2022. What kind of high school bullshit is going on in that company? He's friends with him, so he's not friends with him, or this, that, and the other. This is madness. This is a pro wrestling company in a major event and after a major pay-per-view. And you've got EVPs that are, you know, maybe he believes are sabotaging him because, you know, they're friends of Colt. It is just, it's ludicrous. It really is ludicrous when you ultimately think about it. And again, it's just a wild situation, a really wild situation. How it gets resolved, I don't know. My feeling is at this point, it's beyond the point of no return. If the reports are accurate and you've got, you know, CM Punk, Ace Steel, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Hangman Page all confronting each other at this show, I don't know, and I really think, as I mentioned, these are just the early details of this. So I believe, honestly, that this could get way, way, way worse. And we'll have to wait and see. But this is absolutely staggering stuff. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We'll cover all the details as they come out. And I'll speak for you again very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.